Students, welcome to Sunil's tutorial. I'm Sunil Merwani and today we'll be doing this chapter called as repro and angiosperm. Now let's see what are the methods of reproduction. Methods of reproduction. When you talk about methods of reproduction have been divided into two: asexual method and sexual method. You have asexual and bisexual. Now, what are the asexual methods of reproduction? Methods of reproduction. Amongst the asexual methods of reproduction, we are specifically seeing in angiosperms. Now they are further divided into two types. First of all, what do I understand by repro? Now asexual reproduction is also called as asexual reproduction, or another word for that, you will get this in your fill-ups, is apomixis. Asexual reproduction or apomixis is the production of new progeny without fusion of gametes. So, asexual reproduction or apomixis is nothing but it is the production of new progeny without the fusion of gametes, right? Now, when you talk about asexual reproductions are of two types. Apomixis or asexual reproduction is of two types. One is called as angiospermy and the other is called as vegetative reproduction. Right? Now, what do I understand by angiospermy? Angiospermy is a type of asexual reproduction without the fusion of gametes. Right? What is angiospermy? Angiospermy is a type of asexual reproduction without fusion of gametes. Fine. Now, when we talk about angiospermy, the various types of angiospermy are The various types of angiospermy are: first is parthenogenesis. Right? What do I understand by parthenogenesis? Parthenogenesis is the development of the embryo from the female gamete without the fertilization. I don't need the male gamete only. So when you have reproduction taking place from the female gamete, there is no fusion of gamete taking place here. You would have the embryo that would be developed from the female gamete and without fertilization. Such a form of asexual reproduction is called as parthenogenesis. It is the development of an embryo from a female gamete It is the development of embryo from a female gamete without fertilization. This is parthenogenesis. Parthenogamy. Now, if I had fusion of two female gametes to produce the embryo, then that is called as parthenogamy, right? So here your embryo would not be produced by the fusion of male and female gamete, but would be produced by the fusion of two female gametes. Parthenogamy, it is fusion of two female gametes. And then you have apospory. Next method of asexual reproduction is apospory. It is the development of gametophyte from sporophytes. So if you had development of the gametophytic generation from the sporophytic generation, then that is called as apospory, right? It is the development of gametophyte from sporophyte. That is apospory. Then you have apogamy. It is the development of sporophytes from gametophyte. The reverse. It is development of sporophytes from gametophytes. Right? Then we have another method of angiospermy is adventive embryony. Right? Now, it is the production of embryos from diploid cells of the nucleolus, but never from the egg. So if I have the embryos that are produced from the nucleolus but not from the egg, then that is called as adventive embryony. It is the production of embryos from diploid cells of nucleolus but never from the egg. And the last method of angiospermy is diplospory. Right? It is the production of embryo from the diploid megaspore mother cell. It is the production of embryo from diploid megaspore mother cell. Again here, it is not the production from the egg, but it is from the mother cell. So these are different methods of angiospermy. So here you have an asexual reproduction that takes place without the fusion of gametes. Next, what do we understand by vegetative reproduction? Now, vegetative reproduction, it is an asexual method of reproduction in which the new plant is developed from the vegetative parts of the plant. Now, what are the vegetative parts of the plant? You have stem, leaf and roots. These are the vegetative parts of the plant. So if I have a new plant that is developed from either the stem or from the leaf or from the roots, then that would be called as vegetative reproduction. It is an asexual method. It is an asexual method of reproduction. It is an asexual method of reproduction in which a new plant is developed. A new plant is developed from the vegetative parts. Vegetative parts such as stem, leaf and root. So if you have new plant developed from any of these parts, that means if you have the new plant developed from parts other than the flower, then that would be vegetative reproduction. So the new plant produced is not from the stem, is not from the seed, but it is from the stem, leaf and root of the old plant. Now, most of the angiosperms reproduce vegetatively. Give reason. When we talk about angiosperms, you have most angiosperms reproduce vegetatively. Right? Why do most angiosperms reproduce vegetatively? Now, most of the plants here do not produce seeds. Some plants have lost the ability to produce viable seeds. They do produce seeds, but they don't produce viable seeds. They produce seeds which cannot, germinate. Now, the plants are grown by vegetative method by early flowering and fruiting. Then the plants raised by seeds. Right? Some variety of plants are maintained without variation. So because of these reasons, most of the angiosperms reproduce vegetatively. Basic reasons: one, most of them do not produce seeds. Most of the plants do not produce seeds. Next, some plants have lost the ability. Plants have lost the ability to produce viable seeds. Then these plants, the plants are grown by vegetative method. Plants are grown by vegetative method. The plants are grown by vegetative method for one more reason. Specifically, if you grow the plant by vegetative method, then there would be early flowering and fruiting. So these plants, angiosperms, are grown by vegetative method for early flowering and fruiting. Right? If I were to grow the plant by the conventional method of using seeds, then it would take a longer duration for flowering and fruiting. And some variety of plants, same variety of plants is maintained without variation. Right? So these are the reasons. In order to maintain the same variety of plants, they are reproduced vegetatively. Fine. So these are the reasons why angiosperms reproduce vegetatively. Now let's see what are the different types of vegetative reproduction. Types of vegetative reproduction. Now if we talk about types of vegetative reproduction, the vegetative reproduction is basically classified into two types. One is the natural methods and the other is artificial methods. Natural method and you have artificial method. Right? Now, when you talk about natural methods can be it's further classified natural methods by roots. Right? That is, example of this would be tuberose root of sweet potato. I'll show you this diagram a little later. Tuberose root of sweet potato. Right? Then you could have by stem. Right? By stem would be stem tuber of potato. Stem tuber of potato. Then you could have by runners. Example for this would be cynodon. And the last is by leaf. Example for this will be bryophyllum. So these are my natural methods for vegetative reproduction. Now, when you talk about artificial methods, in artificial methods are further classified as by cutting and grafting. Right? Now, when you have grafting can be done again by 5 different methods. Grafting can be done by 5 different methods. You could have approach grafting, right? Then you could have, say, bud grafting. Then you could have, say, crown grafting. Then you could have, say, whip grafting. And finally, wedge grafting. So these are the different types of vegetative reproduction. You can have natural as well as artificial. Now let's try to see them in brief. Let's come to the natural methods. Right? Vegetative parts such as leaf, stem and roots are separated from the parent plant, fall on the soil and develop into new plant under favorable condition. That is my natural method for vegetative reproduction. Right? Now, let's see the vegetative reproduction sweet potato, by roots in sweet potato. Vegetative reproduction by roots in sweet potato. you were to see this, this would be something like this. You would have the sweet potato, stem, and then you would have leaf here. This would be your leaf, and here on this you would have adventitious roots. This is my root tuber, and this is your adventitious root. Now, sweet potato is a tuberose root developed from adventitious roots, as you can see from here. The stem running on the soil surface has nodes. From each node, adventitious roots grow into tuberose. Now, the adventitious root is a modification for food storage, right? The root tuber of the sweet potato has a number of adventitious buds. The old tuber gives rise to new plant through its buds called as the radical bud. So that's how vegetative reproduction would take place in sweet potato, right? See, what would happen is sweet potato is a tuberose root. Developed from adventitious roots. Here you would have stem running on the soil surface. The stem running on soil surface has nodes, right? From each of the node you would have root that would grow into a tuberose root. From each node an adventitious root develops or grows into tuberose root. So each node would develop a root, right? The root of the sweet potato has a number of buds on it. The root tuber of sweet potato has a number of adventitious buds, right? The old tuber gives rise to a new plant through its buds, right? Through the bud which is called as your radical bud. The old tuber gives rise to new plant through its adventitious bud called radical bud. Right? So that's your reproduction that would take place in sweet potato using the roots. Right? Okay, next you could also have vegetative reproduction that would take place vegetative reproduction, vegetative reproduction by stem. Right? Now, in the case of this, you would have a stem tuber. Something like this. This is your old stem tuber. That's your potato. These are the slender branches. These are the swollen tips. That's your new potatoes. Right? New potatoes, or we could also call them as the new stem tubers. Right? Now, in this case, the potato is an underground modification of stem for storage of food. The potato has many eyes, each with a bud and a scaly leaf. The axillary bud on the underground stem grows into slender horizontal branches. I've shown you the horizontal branches. These the branch has nodes, internodes, scaly leaves, and a terminal bud. The tip of the branch accumulates all the food and gets swollen into a new stem tuber. Right? So that's how you have vegetative reproduction by stem. Here, what would happen is, potato is an underground modification. Potato is an underground modification of stem for storage of food. Right? In this case, the potato tuber, that's the old tuber, potato tuber has many eyes, each with buds and scaly leaf. Buds and scaly leaves. Now, here what would happen is, the auxiliary bud, the axillary bud, not auxiliary, the axillary bud on the stem, on the underground stem, grows into slender horizontal branches. Stem tuber grows into slender horizontal branches. Right? Now these branches would have, these branches have nodes, internodes, scaly leaves, and a terminal buds. So as a result of which, the tip of the branch would accumulate food. The tip of the branch accumulates food and gets swollen to form stem tuber. So that's how vegetative reproduction would take place in stem. Fine, do we get this in clear? Okay, we'll stop this here for the day. Thank you very much.